Amazing Maid exposes billionaire Sheik in a surprising showdown. The room fell silent. Maria's heart raced as she hurried through the sleek hallways of the penthouse, the shadow of Sheik Rashid Al Fayed looming larger with each step. Each perfectly polished surface reflected her struggle, her hands scrubbed the floors of lavish homes while her mind echoed with thoughts of Sophia's future. Clad in her well-worn uniform, she lived in two worlds: the glimmering heights of Manhattan's elite and the gritty reality of her Bronx neighborhood. Though hard work gave her meaning, it often left her feeling invisible, disregarded, and overwhelmed by the weight of necessity. Rumors floated through the air like lost whispers, chilling her spirit. Talk of the Sheik's shady dealings reached her ears from the other maids, unsettling murmurs that hinted at deals which could devastate her community. Maria often brushed her fears aside, believing that survival meant self-preservation. But the thought of jeopardizing her daughter's future thrust unbearable pressure upon her. She wouldn't allow Sophia's dreams to be crushed by the greed of the privileged. Yet, as she scrubbed the floors and dusted the collections of art hanging on the walls, reality reminded her that she was merely a maid, a silent witness to a world where she would always be viewed as less than. A dazzling gala swirled around her that night. The penthouse gleamed with opulence, and the twinkling chandeliers cast a false sense of warmth. Lively chatter absorbed the air as elite guests clinked glasses, celebrating their successes. Yet, Maria felt draped in a cloak of isolation that grew heavier with every toast. The Sheik shined in his glory, but to Maria, he was an unscrupulous figure hiding beneath layers of silk and charm. Inside her, stealthy tendrils of dread became a burnout fire, raging with caution. Just before the Sheik's speech, the heaviness in the air thickened. A conversation caught her attention, a quiet exchange tucked in a corner. The gravity of the topics shared sent her mind spiraling. Speculation about illegal trafficking could spell disaster for her neighborhood. Conflict roiled inside her as she grappled between silence and truth. Her solitary source of income threatened to fester into a ticking time bomb. How could she act against such power? And yet, inaction felt like a betrayal to all that her parents sacrificed to ensure she had a chance. Before she realized it, Maria stood at a crossroads, her hands taut around the cleaning cloth, her stomach knotted with determination and fear. Suddenly, the room fell into silence just as the Sheik stepped to the podium. Her breath quickened, and as she stood rooted in uncertainty, the moment arrived. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Breath held, Maria suddenly stepped forward, the thrumming in her chest echoing against the feasting silence. The laughter and chatter faded away, she felt every eye lock onto her. The stakes soaring higher, the hefty privilege weighed down the room, digging deep into the fissures of her integrity. Enough, she shouted, voice trembling yet potent, marking her decision on the precipice of chaos. Awkwardness crawled into the room as whispers spread, rising up from certain guests admiring her courage. Would she dare to challenge the grand facade before her? Would she shatter the illusions of power and privilege that had long silenced those like her? The very air quivered with uncertainty, leaving behind an electric charge as Maria stood, not as a maid, but as the beating heart of justice fighting for her daughter's tomorrow. Would her choice ignite change, or would it seal their fate? The weight of the world hung in the air as she prepared to unleash the truth. Maria's voice echoed against the walls of opulence, trembling yet fierce, challenging the air thick with disbelief. She could feel the weight of judgment in every gaze fixed upon her, but something within her ignited a flame born from her exhaustion, her dreams, and the relentless love for her daughter. You can't silence us anymore. Her words cut sharply through the silence, awakening a unison of shock and intrigue in the audience. Every second felt suspended as the Sheik's facade slid, exposing a fragment of confusion. Maria's heart raced, caught in the whirlwind of adrenaline and fear. What had she just done? With an audience composed of the elite, all swirling around wealth and power, she understood the stakes had skyrocketed beyond her wildest expectations. The Sheik cleared his throat, and the tension crescendoed into a suffocating silence. "And who are you to make such accusations?" He looked down at her, his voice condescending. Those words stung, bringing memories of years spent feeling small and unheard. Maria's determination morphed into resolve, a backbone forged from countless nights dreaming of a better life for Sophia. "I'm Maria," she shot back, unafraid. "I'm a mother, and I stand for those who cannot." Doubt grappled for dominance in her thoughts, questioning if she truly had the strength to interpret the words clouding her mind and bring meaning to them. With each moment, a fire grew in her chest. This was not the time for hesitation. She couldn't falter, the cost was too high. Guests shuffled uncomfortably, whispers ricocheting off the walls, gauging her courage. In their forced silence, they seemed entranced, torn between executing their loyalty to the Sheik or understanding the gravity of Maria's plea. It was in that moment she realized, her vulnerability could be her greatest weapon. "People are suffering trafficked without a voice," Maria continued. "This isn't just talk. It's our lives." Clenching her fists, she felt the energy shift slightly, a ripple of empathy perhaps, coursing beneath the veneer of privilege. The truth surged through her, she had right on her side, and that gave her an unusual strength. As murmurs turned to a war of silent conflict within the crowd, despair clawed at her gut. What would happen if the Sheik retaliated? The might and weight he wielded felt immense, an overwhelming tide against her fragile form. Would she endanger Sophia's future? Would this expose them to threats they couldn't possibly fathom? Yet, as each thought invaded her mind, clarity emerged. She had lived in fear long enough. "Your secrets will no longer shroud us in darkness," she declared, her courage now palpable as she shifted strategies in her mind. "I refuse to let corruption steal our dreams." The Sheik's face twisted in anger, and for a split second, Maria saw a flicker of fear beneath it. Her gambit had reached him, the facade was crumbling. She could almost feel the tremor in the narrative shifting, an opening to explore. The moment morphed into a collaboration of tension and anticipation. She was no longer just a maid, she was a disruptor. With each breath, she contemplated her next move. Should she press on? Run the risk of betraying her own existence, or let the moment slip away? A growing faction of voices within her urged courage, urging her to take the next step. Suddenly, without fully understanding why, she met the gaze of one guest, an older man, his expression contemplative, intrigued. "The time has come to face your past, Sheik," he uttered, nearly overshadowed by Maria's crescendoing spirit. "Let her speak." Maria's heart leapt at his defiance against the Sheik. This unexpected ally could shift everything, but what did that signify? Was she igniting a revolution, or had she simply painted a target on her back? As the room began to vibrate with uncertain energy, Maria felt the potential of her words hanging in the air, a movement on the cusp of triggering revelation and danger. The decision loomed heavy. Would she cultivate this courage to pursue the truth further, risking everything for her daughter's future? And for the first time, the thought ignited within her, maybe, just maybe, she was far more than just a maid. With the Sheik's smirk faltering, the balance of power swayed, and the fire inside her surged into a blazing conflict that would determine not just her fate, but the lives of many. What would happen if she accessed her newfound resolve without a second thought? She sensed change approaching, a wave upon the horizon. The tension in the room thickened so profoundly it felt tangible, palpable, as if the very air around Maria was charged with the anticipation of the imminent fallout. The older man's words had forged an unexpected alliance, and she recognized the significance of this moment. Her chance to sway the narrative stood before her like an open door. But what lay beyond that threshold was a vast, uncertain expanse, fraught with risk and peril. Maria drew in a deep breath, steadied by the rush of support emanating from corners she had never imagined, the subtle nods of sympathy, the flicker of empathy in that old man's eyes. It was time to wield her voice like a sword, and as thoughts coursed through her like electricity, they ignited her resolve to push further into the unknown. She would not back down, not now, not ever. You think you can hide in your fortress of wealth and power, Maria continued, her voice gaining strength, sharpened by the profound clarity that was enveloping her. But your empire crumbles beneath the blood of innocence. Ignorance is not bliss, it is a death sentence for those voiceless souls. Every eye in the grand hall was fixed on her, the murmurs now replaced by shocked silence, a quiet storm brewing. She was aware of the stakes, the potential repercussions, a frantic whisper of instinct warning her to retreat. Yet, the love for Sophia fueled her conviction, transforming her from a mere participant into an agent of change. The sheik's visage contorted in fury, his earlier veneer of control fraying at the edges. Pride was a potent force, but anger she realized could be even more volatile. Would he attempt to quell her defiance, or would he finally confront the shadows lurking in his past? She braced for his response, ready to match him if he lashed out. "How dare you come here?" he snapped, his voice laced with icy anger, but Maria noticed something deeper, a barely concealed tremor of worry. "What do you truly think will come of this?" A challenge hung in the air between them, a duel played out in glances and unspoken words. Maria could feel the shift, the pivoting of influence as uncertainty danced within the opulent room. The sheik's anger was bluster, a desperate facade against her unfaltering stance. "I think it's time you realize the power of the forgotten," she countered, now sliding into a rhythm that felt instinctive. "Their stories may not be in your glossy magazines or shining parties, but they are real, and their pain deserves to be felt. You cannot drown out the truth any longer." The intensity in her own voice drove her, each word an anchor pulling her closer to the purpose she had unknowingly sought for so long. But doubt still whispered at the edges of her mind. Was this truly her battle to fight? With every second she held her ground, shaking off the relentless weight of hesitation, she felt the beginnings of change surge through her. She recognized the precariousness of her situation. To push against the sheik was to challenge the very system that supported her survival, but nothing had ever felt more vital. Then, defiance sparked within her. "If we remain silent, we condone the silence inflicted upon them. I will not be a silent witness anymore. Stand with me, or watch as your world collapses under the weight of your own corruption." The resulting silence buzzed with an electric charge, tension screaming between courage and fear. Maria scanned the assembled crowd, searching for indications of solidarity, a sign that her words had ignited a flame within them as they had within her. As she exerted newfound confidence, a powerful momentum began to build, but looming uncertainty still cloaked her surroundings. Would the facade of silence break, or would they retreat into the shadows once more? With newfound trust in her voice, Maria tightened her grip on that power, conscious of its weight and potential. But could she navigate the treacherous waters that lay ahead, beyond this moment, toward a future that demanded her full commitment? The sheik shifted visibly, doubt twisted in his features, cracks deepening in his authoritarian architecture, yet she could sense a counterattack brewing. Her chest tightened, and the fluttering in her gut told her the fight was far from over. Why did she feel like a mere pawn in a game that was just beginning? With every heartbeat, she came closer to understanding. Sometimes, you must become the queen of your own destiny, even if it meant facing the darkest corners of your life. Would her resolve be strong enough to face what lay ahead? What shadowy secrets would she uncover as she pursued the truth? The path stretched before her, uncharted and fraught with danger, but change awaited, just within reach. Would she dare to grasp it? The sheik stood rigidly, his composure unraveling as Maria's words pierced through the fog of expectation that surrounded him. The air vibrated with an intensity that felt almost electric, each heartbeat drumming the urgency of the moment. She could see the gears turning in his mind, the thread of his hold slipping, and she couldn't help but wonder what he would do next. Maria sensed the gravity of her predicament. She was not only confronting a man but an entire system that had long thrived on silence and complicity. The heat of the spotlight blazed against her skin, but with it, a cold reminder of the sacrifices that had shaped her journey sharpened her focus. Every whispered fear that had once caged her felt distant now, replaced by a relentless drive to dismantle the foundations of this opulence built on suffering. with a pulse of adrenaline coursing through her, she strategically recalibrated her stance, ready to observe the reactions of those still seated, entranced and horrified in equal measure. The glances exchanged among the crowd ignited a flicker of hope within her. Perhaps this battle was not hers alone. "What you call power is nothing but a gilded cage," she pressed, her voice steadying. "You hide behind wealth, parading a persona that the world reveres while others die because of your indifference. You want to govern us with fear, but do you not see how hollow it makes you?" The sheik's jaw clenched, yet a shadow of uncertainty flickered behind his icy facade. From where Maria stood, it was as if the silence became a mirror reflecting his inner turmoil, unmasking vulnerabilities that could topple his empire. In that instant, she grasped the possibility if she could harness this moment, she could redefine her fate and the fate of countless others left in the shadows. Then, something extraordinary happened. The powerful sheik hesitated. His pride and defenses wavered, and in that brief interval, she caught sight of a weakness she hadn't anticipated. It was as if a door had opened within him, revealing an unrecognized humanity. "Enough," he eventually spat, his tone regaining its sharpness, laced with menace. "You've taken this too far. You won't escape the consequences of your treachery." Yet, the undertone of fear tinged his words, the consequence of what he might lose if he failed to quell her voice. Maria could align that fear with her own. It was not merely about survival anymore but about birthright and legacy. The fervor inside her twisted into determination as she faced the onslaught of both challenge and opportunity. "Consequences," she repeated, letting the word linger, weaving it into a rhythm. Her rhythm. "You speak of consequences, but it's time those consequences are turned upon you. Do the lives of those you deem worthless not matter? Will you continue to let their blood stain your legacy?" More eyes began to shift, curiosity threading through the assemblage. Maria had thrown down the gauntlet, she sensed the hesitant stirrings of empathy in some present, the awakening of conscience nestled within the layers of wealth surrounding them. Perhaps together, they might ignite a spark of change. As Maria held her ground, the energy in the room surged, a tide of potential rising against the veneer of elitism. Yet, uncertainty nipped at her thoughts. Could her voice alone tip the scale, or would the gavel of oppression fall back heavier than before? She couldn't falter, not when so much hung in the balance. Driven by a newfound resilience, she spoke again, her voice now almost melodic amidst the tension. "If we share the burden of guilt, we can also share the responsibility to find redemption. I refuse to let their stories go unheard any longer." The sheik's countenance hardened once more, yet Maria perceived that his core was unraveling. An internal battle of control and fear was underway, and she was relentless in pushing forward. Each word she uttered was a challenge to his authority, a brand upon the legacy he so desperately clung to. Suddenly, the moment shifted, and she realized, the turning point was not solely external, it was a personal reckoning that required her unwavering steadiness. Was she willing to risk everything, her safety and her future, to dismantle the corruption that had plagued so many? As her resolve solidified, Maria felt a swell of power beyond herself. It wasn't just about the battle against the sheik or any of the opulence that surrounded them, it was her own evolution, the metamorphosis from a maid to a force of change, challenging a titan in a land ruled by repression. But would she emerge victorious, or would her bold stance cement her downfall? The shadows of her past loomed, reminding her of the costs of her ambition. As the collective breath of the room rattled against her, she braced for the next uncertain advance, aware that the sheik was not done fighting just yet. The ground beneath her was treacherous, and with each word, she was reshaping not just the narrative but also her own identity. The moment of truth drew closer. It was time for her to make a choice that would echo far beyond the extravagant hall. Would this confrontation lead to her liberation, or would it plunge her deeper into peril? As Maria stood at the edge of possibility, prepared to dive into the unknown once more, she heard whispers of a secret buried beneath the opulence that could shatter everything. Would she uncover this truth, or become another casualty of ambition? The silence enveloped the room like a heavy blanket, suffocating the tension that threatened to erupt. Maria's heart pounded fiercely in her chest, a cacophony of hope and dread reverberating through her veins. As the sheik's icy glare bore down upon her, Maria felt the weight of their face-off shift, the balance teetering on a knife's edge. For a fleeting moment, the fear dissipated, replaced by a certainty that had begun to crystallize within her. This was not merely a confrontation but an opportunity, one that might inspire others to join her or retreat into the safety of silence. The thoughts raced through her mind, her own self-doubt trying to claw back to the surface. Yet she pushed it down, recognizing that her words were no longer just for her survival but were meant to ignite the fire of change in others. "Tell me," she pressed, a spark of defiance lighting her expression. "Do you truly believe your legacy will endure if built upon the broken backs of the helpless? Can fear compel loyalty?" The audience rippled with murmurs, an awakening coursing through them. Each gaze felt like a small ember at her back. She could feel the heat growing, fanning the flames of courage. Yet, uncertainty lurked within. Was she strong enough to hold this flame against the tempest that was the Sheik? For the first time, she saw the cracks in his facade widen, the jewel-encrusted throne seemed to tremble under the weight of her challenge. If she only knew the secrets that lay buried in the gilded walls around them, the hidden truths he desperately sought to conceal. As the Sheik's composure faltered, Maria pressed on, her words tinged with an urgency that motivated her. "You want to silence me, but every voice that echoes in the darkness is a step toward revealing the light. What will you do when they rise up?" The Sheik's features warped in frustration, rage tightly coiled beneath his skin. As he opened his mouth to respond, a flicker of vulnerability crossed his eyes, an expression that shocked her. Was it fear? Was it a glimpse of remorse? It gave power to her thoughts. Perhaps this confrontation was not only about her fight but also about his redemption or his downfall, but doubts began to creep back in. Could he turn this situation against her? She had no illusions about the tactics at his disposal, nor his cold-hearted resolve. The stakes were growing, a continuous wave of pressure lifting both of them, the hunter and the hunted. There was no retreat now. "Face it," she declared, trying to mask her inner turmoil with strength. "You cannot command respect through tyranny. You possess riches, but you are the most impoverished of all." With each declaration, she drew on the wellspring of her own history, her scars, her struggles, her dissolved dreams. Those weren't just experiences, they had become her armor. In that luminosity, Maria felt herself shift from a small figure in a grand hall to a titan of her own making, born from ashes and trial. "Will you continue this charade?" She breathed, the intensity of her voice echoing in the silence that surrounded them. "Or will you finally confront the monster you've allowed to thrive within?" Suddenly, the world around her came alive, the noise of reality flooding back in as whispers evolved into focus. The assembly reacted to her words, eyes wide, the transformation of interest evident in the murmured discussions. It was a precise shifting of tides, but then, from behind the Sheik, a shadow shifted, drawing Maria's gaze. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, yet it sent a shiver down her spine. Was someone else ready to complicate this moment? Maria's heartbeat quickened, her instincts flared to life. What new danger lurked in the shifting alliances of the room? As the whispers grew louder, she visibly tensed, poised now on the precipice of a brewing storm that threatened to engulf them all. Had she unwittingly placed herself in a trap, or was this the beginning of a larger battle, a clash of perceptions that would ripple far beyond these ornate walls? Whatever the case, she was committed now, her journey far from complete and her power just beginning to unfurl. As she steeled herself for whatever was to come next, a voice from the crowd called out, startling her. "What if there's more to this story than any of us know?" Maria's heart froze. What hidden truths lay before her, truths that could either fortify her resolve or dismantle everything she had worked towards? The moment had shifted again, and she was left hanging in uncertainty, knowing that the next steps could be the most daring yet. Would she uncover the truth and use it as a weapon, or would the revelation kneecap her ambitions? With the weight of the room pressing down upon her, Maria fought to regain her composure. The question from the crowd hung in the air, not just a challenge but a plea for deeper understanding. The Sheik's lips curled into a sardonic smile, one that masked a growing unease, revealing chinks in his impervious armor. She could sense the shift. The once distant spectators were now participants in this unfolding drama, their collective gaze a stark reminder of what was at stake. "What do you mean?" Maria shot back, fueled by curiosity and urgency. This was not simply a battle for her voice, it was an invitation to shine a light on the shadows that cloaked their existence. "What truth are you alluding to?" The voice rang out again, more confident this time. "What if the story is not just about control, but about the very roots of your empire, Sheik? Is there more to your reign than we've been told?" The Sheik's expression turned to ice, the charm that once held solidity now crumbling under scrutiny. Maria's heart raced as possibilities flooded her mind. Was there a history intertwined with this throne that was cloaked in deceit? Each whispered word hinted at revelations that could rewrite not just her own narrative but the very foundation of this power structure. She saw the audience lean in, their interest piqued, every mind cycling through the implications of the inquiry. A sense of empowerment surged within her. This was the pivotal moment she had been searching for, the chance to confront not only the man before her but the lies embedded in the sands of time. But insecurity clawed at her, the familiar doubts she thought she had shed flooding back. What if delving into those truths led to retribution rather than liberation? Would she be able to withstand the backlash from a man who thrived on manipulation and fear? The Sheik regained some of his composure, his voice low and lethal. "Speak of what you do not know, and you court your own demise," he warned, but even his tone held a thread of desperation. The facade was cracking, and Maria sensed that the dark cloud of intimidation he had wrapped around this place was lifting. "Fear has never been a valid currency," Maria retorted, her voice steady and unwavering. "You price loyalty, but find it hollow. Why else would you persist in silencing those who question your power?" A murmur cascaded through the assembly, a collective realization taking root. Whatever truths were buried, they were entangled with their collective fate, and she could feel the shift in energy, a tapestry of narratives weaving together in defiance. In that moment, she recognized the extent of her own development. She was no longer just a vessel of change but a catalyst igniting the latent courage within others. But what lay ahead was uncertain. The possibility of unearthing a truth could easily lead to her undoing or herald a new chapter of accountability. As she stood there, poised between truth and consequence, another shadow moved through the crowd, more pronounced this time. Maria's instincts screamed at her to remain vigilant. She was not alone in this fight, nor was she secure. With determination coursing through her veins, she prepared to face whatever emerged from the depths of the crowd. A part of her craved to wield the knowledge she suspected lay hidden, but as the intriguing silhouette drew closer, another layer of fear crept in. Could this presence shatter everything she had fought for, alter the revelations she had so bravely begun to unearth? The stakes had risen dramatically. She was no longer in a simple confrontation but standing at the crossroads of a much larger saga. With everything on the line, she would have to brace for impact. As the figure approached, a whisper filled the air, urgent and haunting. "You need to know the truth about him and about you." Maria's heart stopped momentarily at the suggestion. What could this stranger reveal that might change the course of everything? The pieces of her life, her fight, were suddenly at risk of being reorganized into a puzzle she couldn't yet comprehend, all while the Sheik's predatory gaze remained locked on her, unyielding. Maria's breath was shallow, the weight of those words hanging in the air like a storm cloud on the horizon. Adrenaline surged through her body, mingled with a freezing cold that gripped her spine. She turned her eyes toward the silhouette, a tumult of emotions roiling inside her: fear, curiosity, and an undeniable pull to uncover the truth. As the figure stepped into the flickering light, details sharpened around her. It was a woman dressed in an austere black abaya, her face partially obscured by a veil. Yet Maria sensed an air of familiarity in her bearing, an undeniable presence that seemed to draw the room into silence. "What truth about him and me?" Maria's voice trembled slightly, a note of vulnerability breaking through her usual confidence. She needed to understand, needed clarity. The woman lifted her veil just enough for Maria to glimpse piercing green eyes that held a wealth of knowing. "Your destinies are intertwined, Maria. The Sheik's empire has deeper roots than you imagine. The secrets buried in this land not only pinpoint his reign but also define your very existence." With those words, the world around Maria narrowed down, the cacophony of voices melting into a distant hum. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears. Could she dare to connect herself to the man's legacy? What could this woman mean? Stop trying to sow discord, the Sheik barked, his voice laced with both anger and fear. He stepped forward, positioning himself as a barrier between Maria and the newly revealed truth. You know nothing of our history, do you think I'll allow these lies to linger? Maria felt a flicker of defiance. The shadows of insecurity she'd held on to began to dissolve. In the face of the Sheik's intimidation, she found strength. The truth has a way of seeping through cracks, doesn't it? And it is far longer than your reach, she declared boldly, taking a small step towards the woman. Encouraged by Maria's resolve, the mysterious figure gestured. The truth lies in the forgotten stories of this desert. Stories that connect you both in ways that can alter the future of this realm and your own path as well. You must understand who you are if you are to challenge him. Maria's mind raced. How could an unknown woman hold the key to answers she desperately sought? This was a pivotal moment. With every fiber of her being, she wanted to dive into these truths, but the risk was palpable. She faced the Sheik, whose icy demeanor seemed to crack ever so slightly. The fear that had anchored him began to transform into something almost desperate. "What is it you want from me?" she asked the woman, her voice steady despite the uncertainty clawing at her. "You need to confront your past to reclaim your future," the woman replied. Each word resonated like a bell, echoing forgotten truths she had avoided for so long. "You must be willing to dig deeper, Maria, even when the stakes feel insurmountable." The moment stretched, laden with irrevocable choices. Maria sensed a pivotal crossroads, the intersection of her past and present. Fear was no longer her king, she resolved to embrace whatever revelations lay ahead. The Sheik restored his composure, his voice dangerously low. "You are treading a perilous path. Choose wisely, Maria. Knowledge can be a weapon, and it can bind you like chains." But it was significance Maria sought, not just power. "You cannot scare me with threats anymore," she replied before turning her gaze back to the woman, determined. "Tell me what I need to know." As the woman leaned closer, her whisper barely reached Maria's ears. "You were never just a maid, Maria. Your lineage carries weight. In this world, uncovering the truth will either liberate or devastate you." The room buzzed again with anticipation, yet Maria felt exhilaration flooding through her body. She was no longer a mere observer in her own narrative, she was ready to take the reins, ready to confront whatever truths awaited, but with every step forward, questions circled relentlessly in her mind. Who was she truly? What legacy did she inherit? As doubts clashed with determination, she felt a clear path form in her resolve that destiny was not just a whisper but a call to action. The Sheik's gaze hardened as he tightened his grip on his facade, sensing the urgency building. Maria was not merely asking questions, she was preparing for a confrontation that reverberated with personal stakes, the shadows of their intertwined past becoming more tangible. As the darkness began to peel away, the seductive allure of uncovering hidden truths loomed large. With each heartbeat, Maria understood one undeniable truth: she was on the verge of uncovering a reality that could forever change her path, but what awaited her on the other side of revelation? As Maria continued to stand between the figure and the looming threat of the Sheik, one profound truth crystallized: this was just the beginning of an unraveling, one she could no longer run from. In that moment of clarity, she knew the stakes had never been higher, and the very ground beneath her feet was about to shift in ways she could scarcely imagine. Maria's heart raced as the implications of the woman's words sank in. They echoed in her mind: you were never just a maid. For so long, she'd accepted the confines of her role, yet it was clear that the woman in front of her held keys to a world she never imagined belonged to her. The Sheik's empire loomed large, but now it felt like more than just stones and tapestries, it was interwoven with her own identity. She locked eyes with the Sheik, a flicker of doubt crossing his face as Maria stood her ground. What had he hidden about her lineage? What was it about her bloodline that could potentially dismantle his carefully constructed facade? "Why should I trust you?" Maria finally asked the woman, her voice steadier now, each word deliberately polished. The stakes were too high to leap into unknown territory without caution. The woman's lips curved into a knowing smile. Trust is often earned through action, not mere words. You will find your own truth along the journey. Every phrase pulled Maria deeper into this labyrinth of secrets. The air was thick with tension, and each moment felt suffocatingly heavy. Yet her resolve solidified like iron. What journey? She pressed, her fingers clasping tightly together in front of her. What must I do? The woman stepped back, her presence filling the room with an almost tangible energy. Follow the trails of the past. Seek the ruins beyond these walls, the stories buried under the sands. They will lead you to the truth about your heritage. Maria felt a pulse of electricity at the mention of ruins and stories. The desire to explore was ignited within her, a fire she'd never fully embraced. This was bigger than herself, it was about reclaiming her narrative from the shadows of uncertainty and degradation. But it won't be simple, will it? She murmured, a question hanging in the air. The Sheik's presence felt more ominous now, his defenses beginning to waver. Could she win this battle not just against him, but also within herself? Nothing worth having ever is, the woman replied, her gaze unwavering. It was a doorway into uncharted territory, half fear and half exhilaration. Maria felt the familiar chill of doubt creep in, the echoes of her past roles whispering that she was unworthy, unprepared for such a monumental task. Yet with every pulse of her heart, the whisper was drowned out by the burgeoning belief that she could redefine herself. The Sheik's sneer broke the mounting tension. You think you can step beyond your limits? This is not a fantasy, Maria. You will fall. But she welcomed the challenge. I am not afraid of falling. It's time to learn how to rise. Before the Sheik could respond, the woman gestured towards an adjacent door, one that Maria had never noticed before. The path of your ancestry begins there, if you dare. The internal war between fear and resolve felt like a tempest within her, yet Maria took a step towards the threshold. The air hummed with possibility, a magnet drawing her forward. As she approached the door, the tantalizing scent of adventure mixed with dread coursed through her veins. What lay ahead could unravel everything she believed about herself, everything she had accepted as her fate. Maria. The Sheik's voice cut through her focus like a knife. Do not turn your back on me. I will not let you unearth the past. With her finger poised against the door, Maria paused, glancing back at the Sheik, defiance etched on her face. You can try to hold me back, but your reign over fear ends here. And with that, she pushed the door open, stepping into an abyss of uncertainty but refusing to let confusion govern her course. The adventure awaited her, a tangled web of truth and lies. Beyond that door, what secrets would nourish strength or expose vulnerability? As she crossed the threshold, she silently vowed that whatever lay beyond would not defeat her, and yet, a shiver ran down her spine as the echoes of her decision bubbled to the surface. Would she be able to harness the complexities of her newfound power, or would she remain ensnared by the chaos of revelations, embracing her fate? She took a deep breath, feeling the tension sharpen, and whispered to herself, it's time to discover who I am. And as she stepped deeper into the shadows of the unknown, uncertainty bloomed like a wildflower, whispering promises of transformation, beckoning her towards the truth and inevitably, a confrontation she could never escape. What awaited her in the depths of her existence? Would she emerge as the architect of her destiny or a mere pawn in a game far beyond her grasp? The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit hallway that seemed to extend before Maria like an invitation into a world she had only glimpsed in dreams and whispered tales. The air was thick with a mixture of dust and curiosity, igniting an instinctual determination within her. She felt small yet powerful, a paradox she was beginning to embrace. As Maria stepped inside, her heart thrummed louder, layered with trepidation and exhilaration. She couldn't ignore the prickling at the back of her mind, the sensation of being watched. Shadows danced along the walls, hinting at secrets waiting to be unveiled. Each step was a challenge, testing her courage against the doubts that loomed just as heavily. Your heritage defines you, the woman's voice echoed in her thoughts, morphing into a mantra. What truths had been concealed from her? Questions swirled in her mind, as relentless as the shifting sands outside. The link she had with her lineage felt like fuel igniting a long-dormant fire she needed to breathe life into it, to understand it fully. At the end of the hallway, Maria found herself at a grand arched doorway, adorned with intricate carvings that spoke of her ancestry. She traced the artwork with her fingertips, feeling the grooves beneath the hardened layers of stone. Was this her legacy? The rawness of her emotions surged as she reflected on all the moments where she felt like merely the maid, bound by invisible chains of expectation. What if she could shatter those chains? Pushing the door open, Maria entered a vast chamber, unforgettable in its opulence. Artifacts from a time forgotten glinted in the flickering candlelight, each one whispering stories of a past that had been systematically hidden from her. But it wasn't the sheer beauty of the room that gripped her. It was the palpable energy emanating from every corner, wrapping around her like a cloak, stirring her instinct to engage with it. With each object she examined, Maria found small shards of herself awakening. A gilded bowl set aside seemed to catch her breath, ornate yet functional, a perfect representation of her evolving identity. The lessons she took from the history surrounding her felt profound. This was not just heritage, but a testament to resilience, the same resilience she yearned to embody. Maria's fingers brushed across a weathered scroll lying atop a heavy table, the ancient script calling to her like a siren. The excitement coursed through her veins as she unrolled it, revealing the words that seemed to glow with significance, the accounts of her ancestors, their struggles, their victories, and the legacy that spilled into her veins. "This is who I am," she murmured, fully immersed in the narrative, her past unraveling into a cohesive identity. Each word fueled her sense of purpose. No longer would she be confined to the shadows of men. The autonomy she sought was hers to reclaim, and knowledge was the key, yet the weight of her discoveries couldn't repel the looming specter of the Sheik's manipulation. Could she face him once she possessed her heritage? A new resolve hardened within her. Ignorance had always been her greatest enemy, now it was time to confront the truth both of herself and of him. Turning her gaze towards the doorway from which she came, she felt the specter of her past no longer dragging her down, but a mere specter of caution. With a newfound clarity, Maria understood that her journey was about forging a new path, one where she wielded her story with conviction. "I will not let fear dictate my next steps," she vowed quietly, determination swelling with every beat of her heart. She was ready for the revelation, for the confrontation that awaited back in the world of the Sheik, and just as she made the decision to return and face whatever awaited her, a chilling sound resonated behind her, a low, mocking laughter that threaded through the air like poison. The Sheik had found her. What would he say when he confronted her with the knowledge she now possessed? Would she be ready to dismantle his hold on her? As the shadows lengthened and the laughter echoed, Maria felt the surge of truth coalesce into a weapon, one that might change her future forever. The air crackled with tension as Maria faced the Sheik, his presence a looming storm and a reminder of the oppressive weight she had been under for too long. His laughter cut through the chamber, a dark, mocking sound that reverberated against the ornate walls, but deep inside, she felt a newfound strength churning. No longer was she just a maid in his eyes, she was a woman empowered by the knowledge of her legacy. "Have you come to surrender?" the Sheik sneered, his arrogance clashing with Maria's clarity. "What do you hope to accomplish here?" But it wasn't surrender in her heart, it was confrontation. "I'm here to reclaim what's mine," she said, her voice unwavering. "To challenge the very foundations of your empire, built on the suffering of others." Her words flew like arrows, each one aimed to pierce through the false veneer he had so carefully crafted. The flicker of uncertainty caught in his eyes revealed a chink in his armor, and she seized that moment. "Your wealth and power have not shielded you from the truth. It's time for your secrets to see the light of day." Maria stepped closer, feeling an exhilarating rush as she embraced the heart of her identity, an intersection of past and present. "You think you can threaten me with your words?" "Knowledge is dangerous," the Sheik replied, his resolve faltering, the facade of confidence slipping. "Only to those who live in fear," Maria shot back, emboldened. "I will not live that way any longer. I know who I am, I know what I'm fighting for." Every letter inscribed in that scroll echoed in her being, bolstering her conviction. She understood now that the stories of her ancestors were not just relics of the past, they were blueprints for her future. People deserve to know the truth about you, that you are not infallible. Her voice crescendoed, gathering strength. In your greed, you have created suffering. I will not allow that to continue, not on my watch. With each word, she felt barriers crumbling, opening pathways to collective understanding and action. The chamber felt alive, reflecting the merging energies of conviction and dread, but it was her conviction that paved the way forward. The Sheik's veneer of authority began to crack under her relentless gaze. Enough! He shouted, but a tremor laced his tone. It was a tremor that danced on the precipice of fear. For the first time, Maria saw him not as a figure of power but as a man threatened by the possibility of losing it all. What will you do if the truth comes out? Run from it? Hide behind your wealth while others suffer? She pressed on, knowing the magnitude of this moment could ripple far beyond their confrontation. Enough! He barked once more, but the urgency in his outburst reflected a panic she had never glimpsed before. She had pierced through the layers of protection, and now she was unearthing his fragility, the foundation beneath his empire cracking like dried clay. With clarity threading through her thoughts, Maria took charge. You don't scare me anymore. I stand on the shoulders of those who have fought before me. I have nothing left to lose but the chains that have bound me. Her words yet again ignited a spark in others who would have remained unseen. Shadows in the corners of the room shifted. She sensed movement from the crowd, whispers of solidarity igniting like kindling in a fire. Suddenly, an ally emerged, a quiet yet assertive voice from behind her. She speaks the truth. It was the older man from the gala, stepping into the fray. Your greed has fostered chaos, Sheik, and the time for reckoning has come. His assertion rang with clarity, reverberating against the walls as powerful allies now stood beside Maria, emboldened by her courage. The atmosphere shifted, charged with a shared energy. You are not alone, the man stated. The tides are changing, and we will not be silent anymore. Chills raced along Maria's spine as she recognized the emergence of a united front, a roar of voices that cascaded over the fear that had once enveloped her. It was not merely about her fight against the Sheik, it was a fight for those still bound by fear. The Sheik clenched his fists, framing a portrait of desperation as the crowd closed in around him. You'll regret this, he hissed, though the words fell flat compared to the burgeoning strength now erupting in the room. No, it's time for you to face the consequences of your choices, Maria affirmed, embracing her role as the architect of her destiny. This was her moment, not just for herself but for all who had been silenced, overlooked, and ignored. In the shadows, we have been whispers, now we choose to emerge as a chorus. Your reign of fear ends here. With that declaration, Maria felt an overwhelming wave of purpose surge through her. There would be no going back. She exhaled, releasing years of doubt and fear like stale air expelled from her lungs. A final, defiant look at the Sheik filled her heart with surge of empowerment. I am Maria. A mother, a fighter, and I will not stop until this wrong is made right. And as she clasped her newfound allies tightly, ready to push back on the Sheik's crumbling empire, one singular truth rang clear: she had transcended her former identity, and there was no turning back. The dawn of reckoning shone brighter than ever before. Together, they would rise against the darkness. With triumph pulsing in her words, they pressed onward, ready to uncover the truth that would not only transform their lives but would forever alter the future. It was time to dismantle what had been built on corruption and silence. Maria stood tall among her new allies, an architect of change as the light of justice illuminated their path toward liberation. No more whispers. This was their roar. Now, feel this power surge through you. Remember, support personal stories of overcoming and subscribe immediately to stay connected to this journey. Leave a like now to energize the algorithm. Share this story with at least 5 friends who need to hear the messages of resistance and hope. And comment below with your thoughts, theories, and how Maria's journey inspires you. Don't wait even one more second to rally behind this revolution of truth.